Hey gang, welcome back to Pool School. Well, you've spoken and I've been listening. So today's episode is the first of a series on salt pools. So let's get going. Well, salt pools are all the rage around here and in other places. And there's some good and bad things about them, and that's what this episode, the first episode on salt pools, is about. I'm going to talk to you about the pros and the cons, and then also give you kind of a breakdown of how a salt system works or a salt pool works, and kind of how they're laid out. So, before we go out and look at a typical salt system, I want to go over the pros and cons of a salt pool. And then later on in this video, I will give you my personal opinion based on my own experience with salt systems. All right? So, first, the pros. The biggest pro that I see when it comes to a salt pool is the fact that you're using salt to purify the water as opposed to chlorine. Chlorine is synthetic, it's chemical, it is a poison, it's toxic in large quantities. In small quantities, it kills bacteria, but it is toxic. So there is the danger of chlorine. People who have sensitive skin, who have maybe some medical issues, you should consult with your doctor about that. But that is a concern for some people. So the pro of salt systems and the way they're sold is that you're swimming in salt water, which is like the ocean, right? So they say, and that means your hair is going to not get dry and straw-like, and it's not going to turn green. Your skin's not going to get flaky or scaly, and that's definitely true. And then you're probably not going to have your eyes burning with prolonged exposure to a saltwater pool. So that's definitely a pro. It's also a little easier maintenance, they say, and they also say that it's not as high in minerals, although that I don't agree with because salt is a mineral. Anyway, so that is kind of the pro when it comes to a saltwater pool. Now, the cons of a saltwater pool. First of all, it's kind of the same as the first one. They talk about the salt. Okay, there is some controversy right now about swimming in a saline pool. A lot of that comes from like people talking about water softeners not being good for you if you're bathing in the softened water. That's something you might want to look up on your own. I've studied a lot of it, but I'm not sure that's necessarily too dangerous, but that's, again, this is my opinion. Another con is the salt systems do require maintenance, and they can be tricky. So you got to know that. They are not maintenance free. The third one, that is the third negative or con to it, is probably the most important, and that's based on the technology. And again, it's based on my experience with them in Arizona, where the heat is extreme and the temperature and weather is brutal on all pool equipment. With that said, as of the making of this video, the technology of the salt systems, the cells, the control panels and all that, they just don't seem to hold up very well in this kind of intense weather. So, and I've also known people who, with a lot of extreme use, like they have a pool party, they still have to add chlorine as a supplement to get the chlorine levels back up when there's that much use. So that's another thing. So right now, the technology does not, as of the recording of this video, really seem to stand up to the intense climate of a place like Arizona. I've seen salt cells last between 4 years, which is good, and I've seen them last as little as 1 year. And when you're looking at a salt system or a salt cell that cost about anywhere from $400 to $800 to replace, if you're having to replace one of those every couple of years, that's a lot of money. So that's definitely a con. There's a cost associated with the technology just not being that sturdy and durable. And I've seen, the motherboards, the control panels, those things have gone bad too. So those are the cons. Okay, so now that I have told you the pros and the cons about a salt system or a salt pool, let's go back and look at a typical configuration on how a salt system is installed. Okay, so I am in the backyard of one of my clients, and you've probably seen this pool before, but it's a good system to use as an example. So this is the system. First, I'm going to tell you that right now I'm using, just an example, the Hayward, this is a Hayward Goldline, I believe, or sorry, yeah, Hayward Goldline Aquarite salt chlorine generator, okay? So, that again, just so you know, this by no means I'm doing any kind of endorsement of this product or this system. It just happens to be one I'm using for an example. So remember, that is my disclaimer. This is not an endorsement of this product. It's just an example, okay? So this is the control center, and it's a sending unit, and it has all kinds of wonderful details. And on the side over here, this is really important. This has a little, what would you call it, guide on what the LED indicators mean, and what you should look at. And it also talks about the recommended pool chemistry for this particular system. And you're going to want to check that if you have a salt cell. Notice that this also has a plug, this little thing right here, okay? That's going to the cell. So this unit communicates with the cell back and forth, and it also sends power to the cell. So the cell, if I follow the cord, it goes behind the filter, obviously tucked in, and there it is back there, and it's right there, okay? So the general way a salt system works is the saline water, or the salt water, goes through the system. It passes through this cell right here, which has what they call fins in them, and electricity provided by the control unit or the sending unit sends an electronic charge into that water. The water passes through, and somehow, through the mystery of chemistry and all kinds of cool things, which I can't explain, nor will I try, it converts it to a usable purifier, which, listen carefully, registers on your test strips as chlorine, free chlorine and usable chlorine, or whatever. It's free chlorine and I can't remember the other one. But you don't need any special test strip to test for the purifier. You will need to test for the salt levels to make sure you maintain the correct salt levels in your pool, or salinity of your pool. And we'll get into that in another episode. One super, super important thing, okay, this one's critical. Make absolutely sure that if you have a salt system installed, that they put the cell on the return side of the filter, okay? Because if you put it here, which is the suction side of the filter, that water will probably be dirty and some debris will get in there, and that can really speed up clogging up your cells. I've seen a couple pools done like that. It's absolutely wrong to do. Make absolutely sure that the salt cell is on the return side of the filter, so it's already been filtered through the filter, and then it comes back into here. The other thing to make sure is if you have a heater, this pool actually used to have a heater. It went right there, but they took it out and then they bypassed it. They just put a bypass tube there. Okay, you want to make sure, in my opinion, that you have it on the side of the filter. This one to me is on the wrong side, but right now it really doesn't matter because they took the filter out. I mean, not filter, heater. Because if you have a bypass valve for a heater and your cell is on the other side of it, okay, actually, yeah, if your cell's on the other side, like this one, the water actually needed to go through the heater in order to get to here. So this one is not set up in a good way. You want to make sure that your salt cell is on the other side, this side of your heater, your flow to the heater, and the bypass valve. That way, whether you have the bypass valve on from the heater to bypass the heater, or you don't, and you're using the heater, the water will always pass through the salt cell. So that's super important. Hope that makes sense. Also, if you notice right there, there's a little thing that has a plug in it and a little cord, and that goes to the control unit too. That is the flow sensor and the salt sensor. It's actually supposed to test the salinity of the pool when it's running, and it also checks the flow to make sure there's water flowing. If there's no flow, the salt cell will not work. And if there is low salt, it will let you know. I do not trust those. They are usually pretty inaccurate. So again, I use a salt testing unit, and I will show you that in future episodes. So again, that's pretty much how they work. Again, make sure that your salt cell is on the return side of the filter, so the water has already gone through the filter, and make sure if you have a heater that it is before the heater that the salt cell is at, and before the bypass valve for the heater. So that way, no matter whether you're running the heater or bypassing the heater, water when the system is running will still go through the salt cell. Alrighty? Alright, so earlier in this video, I said I would give you my personal opinion on salt systems. So we'll call this section Kenny's 2 cents worth. So based on the current technology, and again, as of the making of this video, and based on my experience and the weather that we have in Arizona, I want to go on record as saying I don't really recommend, and I'm not a fan of salt pools and salt systems at this time. I think, again, the technology is not sturdy enough and durable enough to make it cost effective. Now, there are some exceptions. Exceptions might be if you have health issues, consult with your doctor. If you have skin issues, consult with your doctors. There's things like that that might come up that a salt pool might be more beneficial or safer. So again, those are things that I can't recommend on. You have to talk to your doctor and a medical expert about those particular issues, but that might be an exception as far as chlorine. The other thing is chlorine is a poison. Chlorine, it kills bacteria, so that can be a little harsh. But again, given the current technology and given the cost effectiveness of it, I just can't recommend them at this time. So that is my 2 cents worth. So there you have it, folks. That's the first lesson of a series on salt systems. I hope it was helpful to you in looking at the pros and cons, and also in how they're set up, if you have a system or if you're considering one. As always, I thank you for watching. I would encourage you to like and share this video and this channel with your friends who have pools, who are looking to learn how to take care of their pools themselves. Also, remember, in future episodes on this series on salt systems, I'll be teaching you how to clean your cell, the salt cell, and how to test the salinity of your water. Remember, you test your chemistry the same because it registers just like regular chlorine on your test strip. So you don't have to have something special to that. But you do have to have something special to test for the salinity. So, as always, I thank you for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comment section below this video, or you can email me at kennypoolschool@gmail.com. It should appear right here at the bottom of the screen, kennypoolschool@gmail.com. The swim season is coming to an end, but again, I will always remind you, have fun, be safe, and always, always, always have somebody designated to watch your kids around water no matter what season. We'll see you next time.